Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. On this week's show, it reports from Jamie down at Hayward Bait and Bottle. And you know, with it being late fall like this, many anglers are out there looking for that once-in-a-lifetime muskie. And on this week's show, we're talking muskie fishing with Rich Reinert, who runs the Wisconsin Musky Expo Sports Show. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
Store your boat where it'll be safe and secure at Hayward Powersport. We're the area's largest marine and power sports storage facility. Call now to reserve your space and bring it in when you're done for the season. Your boat will be prepared by our certified techs who properly winterize today's high-tech motors. We offer shrink wrapping and indoor storage, plus a 20% discount in any repairs done when you store your boat with us. State licensed and bonded, Hayward Powersports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77 or at haywardpowersports.com.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray, bake down, draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu. And while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're recording this week down at Hayward Bait and Bottle and talking to Jamie down here, and you haven't been on for a little while. Good to have you back out here.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me again.
You know, let's talk about the fall. I mean, we had this stupid prolonged fall. It just kind of went on and warmed up and cooled down, warmed up, cooled down. And water temperatures right now, yesterday, as I'm recording this, I saw 58 degrees on one of the smaller lakes, and probably even colder on even small lakes. But that's way behind. That's probably a week to 2 weeks behind where it should be for this time of year.
Yeah, it's definitely cooling off now, but it should have been, we should have been further into fall at this point.
Yeah, I can remember years ago, Muskies Inc. tournament, we were right in turnover on some of the small lakes, and I don't know if anything has went through turnover yet. I see signs of it in some of the small lakes. The big lakes are probably be wild, but you're getting down to that water temperature right now where that can happen. Usually around that 57, 58 degrees is where that starts to happen.
Yeah, you were just explaining to me how that, turnover works, and it's something you really don't want.
It can complicate the fishing a little bit. One thing to remember, though, is a lot of times the fish go up shallow. In the shallowest weeds, you can find green weeds. That's a good place to start looking if you're forced to look at fishing on a lake that's kind of dingy looking and you got floating weeds around and stuff like that happen. But, up till now, the walleye fishing's been pretty good from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. With cooler weather, they're gonna, be chasing the bait fish. Once we get further into fall, they're gonna love them walleye suckers. That's what's gonna do best. So yep. We have those here in shop if you need them.
They'll move deeper, but right now, a lot of times that right to in around that turnover just before, a lot of the fish move up shallow, and that includes the walleyes. And don't overlook looking for them up in the shallow, right on the edge of the weeds, or even in the weeds.
Yeah. Once if you're targeting them shallow, you want to go with those jerk baits and plastics on jigs. Those work pretty well.
A little bit better in the weeds, that actually works too. Other fishing out there, I know the pan fishing has been good. I mean, I've been finding crappies on a couple of different lakes I fish out in 20, 25 feet of water.
Yeah, they're in them deep weed edges, and, you got to find the cribs.
Cribs, bog brush, just sometimes just out there in that deeper basin, and that's where a lot of them will stay until winter. But there's probably still some fish up along shallow weeds yet, too.
Oh, yeah, and, using crappie minnows and plastics on jigs, they work great right now.
Yep, and our favorite, gulp.
Yep, the gulp works great.
That always works, too. Bluegills and crappies, there'll be some good fishing there. I know northern pike fishing has been pretty good, too.
Yeah, it's been great. Another one, you want northern suckers on slip bobbers for those. That's going to be real popular coming up.
It seems to be one way to catching them, and the bigger fish are going to tend to be in the weeds or on the weed edges now rather than out deeper where they were all summer.
Yeah, you want to find schools of bait fish, and they're in the weed cover there.
Yep. Well, the bait fish tend to gravitate toward the weeds, just like I've been mentioned earlier. A lot of things go up in the weeds shallow this time of year, and then they'll progressively move deeper. Musky fishing, that's been kind of hit or miss. I mean, you look at what they got in the Musky Sing Fall Tournament, they were down in numbers of fish that summer.
Oh, definitely. I think it was 49 fish caught by 41 anglers, and altogether there was 541 anglers.
Yeah, and it was just, it was down in numbers. I think that's attributable to the fact that we've had all this crazy weather coming up to the final cool down.
Yeah, hopefully it's going to get better, thank goodness. Here at the shop, we have plenty of musky suckers. Yeah, we're starting to sell a lot more now that it's cooling off, but we've got extra small all the way to large if you need them.
You got the suckers, the sucker rigging for the live bait. Also, the other thing, too, is that a bait that seems to work really good in that cold water is some of the plastics, whether it be like Red October tubes or Medusas, Bulldogs. There's a lot of different plastics out there.
Yeah, you ever try those Savage ones?
I have not tried the big Savage suckers yet. I've got a couple of them. I just haven't used them. But that's just you got the swim bait thing. And you're talking about a swim bait with a paddle tail on it. That's a kind of a big rage now this year. It seems like there's been a lot of fish caught on the swim baits, and it's not just the Savage Gear has one. You've got them here.
Innovations,
Muskie's
I think.
Innovations.
Yep.
There's 2 or 3 companies, and you got a big selection of them here too.
Yes, we sure do. I'm sure that they are a little pricey, but I'm sure the muskies tear them apart, and we got plenty of them here.
Well, you can always fix them too by just heating up a butter knife with a torch and then melting the plastic back together and save that bait to run for a long time. But The thing about swim baits too is that whether you're fishing the swim baits for bass and the smaller version, the paddle tails, or you're fishing the larger big ones for muskies and pike, it's an easy bait to use because basically you can't do anything wrong with it. If you just throw it out there and crank it back in, it'll work. But sometimes add a little stop and go to it.
Yeah, they call that dummy proof.
Yeah, well, whatever. It works anyhow. And, bass fishing out there is going to get pretty darn good for the big smallmouth, too, as they move deeper here.
Good, yeah, coming up. They've been kind of all over the place lately.
Yep, and largemouth and smallmouth, but I can do a lot on the smallmouth. They usually late once they get moved deep, and I actually will use not just walleye suckers. I'll use northern pike sucker minnows for the big smallmouth.
Oh, really? Yeah, I heard crayfish, too, will work.
Yeah, well, you got to be careful with the crayfish as far as using the live bait, but I think you can, legally, I think you can use a crayfish tail, but I'm not even sure on that as far as legality. But the bigger minnows, I mean, heck, we got them hitting musky baits, so if they hit a full-size musky topwater, darn well they'll eat a 6-7 inch minnow.
Heck yeah, and that's a nice size fish if they're doing that.
You bet. How about the hunting? Hunting seasons are underway out here right now. Have you had any reports on people as far as the deer?
Not really any reports yet. I just got a lot of people coming in asking for John. They need their things fixed and tuned up and getting ready.
I know he's got a good selection of crossbows in here yet. I know it was the rack was a little empty here a week ago, but now it's filled back up again. Yeah,
we've been selling them and getting them shipped back and selling them again. And we got plenty of guns too, ammo. any kind of ammo you would need, we got here.
Yeah, everything you need for hunting, a good supply of that. And I know you guys are going to start gearing up for ice fishing pretty soon, too. Hopefully we don't see that for a while yet. But
yeah, soon, couple months here, we'll get all of our shacks, all of our shipment, everything going up on the walls, getting ready to sell. Now this year, something new is we have a bunch of apparel with our new logo on it. You know, we've got a lot of heavy-duty sweaters and things like that to wear under all your ice gear.
Well, Jamie, a lot of interesting information there. I want to thank you for taking the time with our guests out here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me again, John.
Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll be talking musky fishing with Rich Reinert. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hunters and anglers, Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop in the Hayward area. Stop in and check out the huge selection of fall musky, bass, walleye, and panfish tackle. They also have a great selection of ammunition, scents, hunting supplies, and much more. Gear up for the fall at Hayward Bait and Bottle. And while you're there, check out the bottle shop for a full selection of beer, wine, and liquor, too. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop in the Hayward area. There's no time like the present to explore Hayward, Wisconsin, one of the Midwest's most popular vacation destinations. With crystal clear lakes for water sports and fishing, miles of trails for riding snowmobiles, ATVs, cross-country skiing, hiking, and mountain biking, this area is buzzing with activity year-round. Combined with charming local shops and a variety of Northwoods dining options, Hayward is certain to offer both adventure and relaxation for everyone. Plan your trip today and find everything you need on the Hayward Area Chamber of Commerce website. From events and attractions to local dining, shopping, and lodging, visit haywardareachamber.com and start your next adventure now.
The 2026 Polaris off-road vehicles are rolling in daily at Hayward Powersports, and we need to create room by making crazy deals on the remaining 25s. Now is the time to take advantage during the Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance event. Claim rebates up to $4,000 or financing as low as 0.99% for 36 months on select models. Polaris RZR is built for everything from taming adventurous terrain to adrenaline-charged trail rides with your crew. Polaris Ranger is the perfect machine for tackling property maintenance and then take on a backcountry ride. Or get the best of both worlds with the Polaris General, built with task-to-trail versatility, unlocking more adventures. With up to $4,000 off select Polaris side-by-sides, it's time to finally get the machine of your dreams. Plus, Hayward Powersports even has rebates up to $1,500 off the machine that started it all, the legendary tough Polaris Sportsman ATV. Let us help you get the right Polaris to join you on your next adventure. Hayward Powersports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Find them online at haywardpowersports.com. See dealer for complete program details. Always wear a helmet, never drink and ride.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors, and this part of the show is brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, we're into the late fall period now, and as the water cools and we're getting closer to the end of the season, this means musky fishing to many Wisconsin anglers because it's the time of year when you got to crack at some of the biggest fish in the lake, and it may be the best time of the year to look for that fish of a lifetime. On this week's show, I had a chance to talk musky fishing with Rich Reinert. We had a lot to talk about when it comes to musky fishing with Rich. We're talking to Rich Reinert, and you actually run the Wisconsin Musky Expo.
Yes, sir. Yeah, how you doing, John?
Pretty good. Let's talk a little bit about musky fishing. Musky fishing has tremendously grown since I started. I started guiding 45 years ago, and the amount of baits we had available was, minuscule compared to what we have today. And you don't have a whole lot of baits available unless you got a whole lot of people out there fishing for them. And I think there's way more musky fishermen out there.
It's growing tremendously. There's a lot more musky fishermen on the water today, and which means there's a lot of increased pressure. And as you well know, and you look at the bait selection, as you mentioned before, we had maybe a dozen baits that were available to us back in the 40 years ago, and today, there are musky shops full of all kinds of colors and sizes and different categories.
Well, there's been a lot of people out there, and we're seeing lakes go down. Lakes peak, go up, and then lakes kind of get knocked down from the pressure on them. I see people out there trying to blame one thing or another. One of the things is forward-facing sonar, and yes, I think from talking to some of my friends in Minnesota, it has had an impact out there. But that's not the answer. So we saw the collapse, almost near collapse of some of the lakes, but way before forward-facing sonar ever came out.
Well, and I agree with that. Look, there are always going to be people that are going to abuse, whether it's electronics or trolling or fishing, they're going to take it to the limit. But for the most part, I find most of the guys that are using the live scope or, forward-facing sonar, are basically using it in a proper way. But there are people that are abusing it where they're actually sitting up on fish and they're casting to those fish and catching them. I think the biggest thing that people are putting so much energy into complaining about the live scope. I wish the people would put the same energy and maybe talking to your politicians and writing letters and start stocking our lakes more, because the stocking has been cut way back.
Well, and some lakes it has, but it's not just a stocking issue, though, because what the big issue is the fact that we have more people out there with more knowledge than they've ever had, better equipment, fishing for and even when they're stocked at the maximum, you have a low density fish compared to other fish. And then, like one of my friends said, that the fish handling seems to have gone out the window over the last 15 years. Too much, too many pictures. They picture them to death sometimes, then they release them. But, what?
I agree with you 100%. What I've noticed with some of the people coming into musky fishing today is the egos have been tremendous. So you're exactly right. They catch a muskie and they got to have 20 different pictures of that fish so they can show everybody that they caught one. I put no fish on social media. I've got people that I fish with on a regular basis. They see the fish. Most of the fish that we catch today, we just basically take a pair of pliers and we unhook them in the water and let them go.
I can see, getting a few pictures, especially if it's your first muskie or if it's your personal best muskie or it's a larger size fish. But there's some people out there that got to take a picture every 35-inch fish they catch it. How many pictures of 35-inch fish do you need?
John, I've known you a very, very long time. And, we both have been around this industry for a very long time. You don't, I think the conservation of the fish is paramount right now, especially again, it's a multitude of things. And one of the things you touched on is that the musky fishing has grown so much and there's so many people on the water today that, we've definitely, when they do catch them, we got to think about that fish a little bit because they're not a high volume fish.
No.
In a great musky lake, if the lake is, say, a great musky lake, you would have one muskie per acre. And that was told to me by a technician who worked for the DNR for 37 years.
Yeah.
In a great musky lake, you have one musky lake per acre. And I think with the lack of the stocking that the DNRs had because of lack of funds and because musky fishing has increased, that they're not stocking as much. And so therefore, our lakes are down population-wise look at back 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember Lost Land Teal? It was like the holy grail. Look at all the big fish that were being caught.
Yep.
And how is it today compared to then?
And now it's a whole different story. You hit a good day when the fish are extremely hot and active out there, you can catch one or two fish. But you go out there a lot of days and not see a fish, too. And I've mentioned to you before, too, there's different ways that you catch a muskie, and probably 98% of the time you're catching a muskie from either responding or just swatting at the lure and grabbing it. The other 2 or 3 or 5% of the time, that fish is actually hot and active. That's a very minuscule part of the time when it's out there. So most of the fish are caught. The fish responds by snapping at the lure. It's in his area. It's in his face. And after they've been pressured enough, they don't do that. The only time you catch them is when they go hot active.
No, I agree 100% with that. And so here's the difference. So you've got guys who are either single and or are attempting to be involved in this business. And so they're able to spend the time on the water fishing. So there's some guys on the water that are putting 30, 40 hours a week on the water. I've been fortunate. I've been able to do that for most of my life. But it was also, I was a fishing guide like you.
Yeah.
And I've worked within the fishing tackle industry for many years. So this has basically been my business. So that's where I get the time on the water. we are not any better than the guy that's walking into the store here today. He just has less hours than we do, you know.
You learn where to look for the fish. You learn where to look for them and, find them in the right areas. I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of people make musky fishing. They're not looking in the right place.
100%. You know what? 10% of the water holds 90% of the fish.
Yep, and that's a good rule of thumb. And that 10% is pretty small when you're dealing with even one fish per acre.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, here's the thing. I've gotten to regardless whether you fish in the Hayward area, Philo-Oneida County, Iron County, or even in central Wisconsin, those areas, you have to be very efficient in, fishing locations with the proper baits or tools, and keep those baits in the strike zone in order to take advantage of, those fish. And like you touched, like when those fish are hot, anybody can catch them. It's when they're not hot that you have to try to convince those fish to eat a bait. And that's what makes it tough.
You got to get it in their face. You got to be right in front of them. And that's one of the things I think some of these guys are doing with live sonar is they're able to put that lure right in front of the fish. But old timer one time years ago, who's dead, an old guy told me, he says, it's pretty simple to catch a fish on the Chippewa flowage. Roll around Big Timber Island making your cast 1 foot apart. Well, sooner or later, you're going to land it right in front of a fish's face.
Well, exactly. And he's right. You got to, but sometimes in those cases, we don't have necessarily all those fish in there to put that bait in front of, the bait in front of those fish's right now.
Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll have the second part of that talk we had with Rich Reinert. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore-sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Hey folks, the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach on Highway K between the Big Lakes has groceries, ice, beer, liquor, and pop, and now has all new tackle and bait supplies. All current antiques and household items are now on sale and all must go to make room for the sport shop. That's at the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach between the Big Lakes.
If you'd like to have your time fishing be more enjoyable and productive, hiring a fishing guide can be a good investment. Whether it's learning more about fish patterns throughout the year, learning how to use your depth finder to find the best spots and fish, learn how to use that GPS to get the most out of it, or learn better boat control, a day on the water with a guide can really help you to be a better angler as well as make a day on the lake very enjoyable. To book a guide trip this year or get more information, you can find us on the internet at www.wiscnorthlandoutdoors.com and then just click on Area Guides.
Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And folks, we're going to jump right back into that second part of that talk we had with Rich Reinert. So things have changed out there a lot, and, we can make some changes. I mean, as far as the personal changes you can make, I mean, how many pictures do you need? How are you going to handle them? You know how we used to handle them if catch and release started? A lot of the fish, we didn't have bump boards. We used a floating ruler, threw it in the water next to the fish in the net, measured it, picked it out, maybe got a picture horizontally alongside of the boat, the gun of the boat leaning over and right back in the water. We never hardly didn't bring them back in the boat at all unless it was a really big fish.
And those rulers that you're talking about are still on the marketplace. You still see them in stores, but the guys have gone to bump boards. And I'm not saying bump boards are bad. I'm just saying if you were to keep the fish in the water, you can get those floating rulers. They're circular, they got them. They look like a tube, and there are guys using them. I'm at the point now where, at least in my life, that I don't even worry about it unless it's a fish that my wife Benny wants to measure, or if it's a decent fish and somebody wants to get a measurement, I will. Otherwise, if we net a fish, we unhook them and we basically just drop the net and let them go.
That's kind of what I do a lot of times.
Yeah.
Unhook it, maybe hold it up. They see it real quick and back in. We don't bother it because, taking time out of the water, especially when the water's warmer. I mean, it's not quite as critical when you get in the late fall and the water's cool, but in the summertime especially, or any time.
Well, I agree with that 100%. And I think musky fishermen today have to be more efficient. And I think there's a part of the guys out here where they're using the live scope and they feel by seeing the fish, on the scope and then throwing the bait at, that's being efficient. But then there's that certain mystique where we used to work for our muskies.
Exactly.
In these kids today, they play video games and stuff. Musky fishing is not a video game.
No.
It's part of the mystique. It's challenging to go out and get that fish to hit, and I'm going to work for my fish.
Any fish, that's what we learned years ago. You have to learn the formula, the fish, the location, and the presentation. And once you figure that out, you can pull up a map, and some of the new high definition maps, you can even carry them on your cell phone. You can actually pick out the spot you want to be on once you learn that. But if you don't learn that, and if you think that forward-facing sonar is the magic trick, the magic answer, you could spend a lot of time out there looking. If you're on muskies, you're spending a lot of time out there shining around looking for a muskie. If you know where they're at, and you don't need the live scope,
right,
because you know where to look. But if you go in those areas you do have it, you can actually see the fish kind of quick if he's away from cover and stuff.
It's kind of interesting, John, and I'm sure you have this today. A lot of the regular people that go fishing with me today, they're not really going fishing so much to even, there's an older bunch of, crowd. I've got some younger guys in their 40s, but I've got a lot of guys, they just want to hear the stories, what it was back in the old days. And I'm sure you get that too.
Oh, yeah. And I have a lot of stories to tell, actually, myself. I mean, it's interesting. 45 years I've been guiding.
Well, I've been guiding for 25 years, and as you well know, I've worked in this business a very long time. And I think the thing right now today is I think when younger fishermen look at someone like you or me or some of the older guys, I think they just look at us as old men. And what they don't realize that we were 25 and 30, and back in our day, in our heyday, we used to catch a lot of big muskies, and where we were then is where they're at today. We haven't forgotten. We still know what we have to do.
You just can't go as strong.
We can't go as strong, and we're just probably at the point a lot quieter now.
Interesting you mentioned that, too, because I'm seeing a lot of resurgence in this, and this is a good way to go after pressured muskies. A lot of resurgence and pictures with the dark background. People are night fishing again.
Oh, yes.
And it's like some of the young guys and some of the people, I think this is a new revelation. Man, I was catching fish after dark in the 80s, and we were catching big fish doing it.
Yes, we were. Matter of fact, I'll tell you, one of my toughies, I had a gentleman that, those spotlights, he actually cut holes in my toughie, and then he siliconed those lights inside, the gunnels of my boat. And then he had these fiberglass flaps that I pulled down. So when I was not using them, I had these flaps pulled down, and then when I needed them, I pulled them up at night when we were fishing. And if we got a fish on, I'd flip a switch in my boat, and it was instantly a circular of light around the whole boat. So that's how crazy I was for night fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was into it big time. But as I getting older, honestly, I don't have the confidence in myself like I used to. My wife does not care to deal with mosquitoes and bugs. So whatever my wife says, I do.
Well, Rich, a lot of interesting stuff there. I want to thank you for taking the time with us here.
Hey, John, anytime. Are you going to be coming to the Wisconsin Musky Expo this year?
I'm going to try to get down there again.
Well, you've been there every year, so you just let me know you're there and have fun and interview the guys on the floor.
You bet. When is that mess?
This year, it's the Wisconsin Musky Expo. It's in Wausau. It's March 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
People can mark that on their calendar. Anyway, Rich, I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much, John.
Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, go to our website at wnoradio.com. From there, you can link to our podcast site, and the show is also on Spotify and Google Podcasts every week. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com. Thanks for listening, folks. We're out of time, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you.
Listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin outdoors, our Wisconsin outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications.